Welcome back to Bloomberg Crypto. We are starting a little bit late on this Tuesday afternoon. We were just listening to President Trump speaking to members of his cabinet. You can head on over to Bloomberg.com and check out Live Go on the Bloomberg terminal for more of that. I'm Tim Stenevec, along with Shanali Bassick. Crypto ventures have added hundreds of millions of dollars to President Trump's fortune in the span of months. And now today, we learned that Trump Media has filed for its third crypto ETF. Bloomberg's Massa reported on Trump's crypto fortunes and joins us now. Annie, good to have you with us this afternoon. I think a lot of people associate President Trump with a real estate empire that's certainly shifted in recent months, thanks to what he and his family have been doing in the crypto space. You guys crunched the numbers. What is it looking like over the past few months?
That's absolutely right. So if you look back at how President Trump's fortune has changed from election day to now, the figures on their face look about the same, over $6 billion in wealth. But when you look under the hood, crypto is making up a much larger share of that now. And that's because at this time last year, Trump's two big crypto projects weren't even available in token form. That would be World Liberty Financial and the Trump meme coin weren't even available. And now, as we looked into the numbers, the Trump family has generated more than $600 million, we estimate, in crypto-related wealth.
So this is the first time it's showing up to be a sizable portion. The direction of travel, how quickly is that pot of crypto money growing?
Well, crypto is so different than real estate, right? Because even in licensing deals, which the Trump organization is known for in real estate, which is lending your name to a building that's built by someone else, you collect those checks. But in crypto, you can earn on paper what amounts to millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, really in the span of hours. And so that is what makes crypto so different from those real estate projects, not to mention how long the timeline is to create a real estate project of your own with the approvals needed and the occupancy.
Annie, we thank you so very much. You can find Annie's reporting on the Bloomberg terminal and on Bloomberg.com. Now, let's talk about Bit Digital. Shares of the crypto miner soaring this week after announcing the sale of 280 Bitcoin in order to buy Ether. Here to explain why, Bit Digital CEO Sam Tabar. Sam, why the shift? If you look at what's been happening lately, it's been really interesting to watch a lot of the American public take a closer eye at Solana, at Ether, at assets outside of Bitcoin. Why the shift for you?
Well, look, coming from an institutional background, I've been in this space for many years now, and I've watched investors feel like they missed on the Bitcoin wave. Ethereum represents that next wave. And so that is important to show investors an opportunity to catch up in a way. But also, we're not just buying a coin. We're allocating our reserves to a protocol that powers trillions of on-chain activity. And we believe Ethereum is becoming a new category of a strategic corporate asset, just like gold and treasuries. Ethereum actually really is a superior corporate asset. You could actually capture a good yield on that and fantastic capital appreciation. Also, Ethereum captures real economic activity. As stablecoin volumes grow, as tokenization becomes a thing, the fees generated by that activity is plowed back into the ETH holders, and that kind of feedback loop is not available for Bitcoin.
Sam, another way to ask why me make a shift such as this, do you think the upside of Bitcoin has been achieved? Is there less upside there than in Ether in your view?
I think Bitcoin is obviously the mother coin. It has first mover advantage. However, Ethereum has been sort of compressed in its valuation because of the era of Gary Gensler. Gary Gensler went after a lot of Ethereum projects during his reign at the SEC. He's no longer there. And Congress is now passing a lot of a lot of legislative acts to offer clear rules around Ethereum. You've seen the Genius Act that's been passed that provides a lot of rules about stablecoins, and more than half of stablecoins are built on Ethereum. And you see the Clarity Act that's upcoming. All these legislative acts is erasing the era of Gary Gensler and is finally unleashing what Ethereum can be. And so that's one of the main reasons why Ethereum hasn't had its chance in the sun, because of regulatory pressure. regulatory lack of clarity, and an SEC chairman that had some sort of weird vendetta against Ethereum.
Samir, you know, it's interesting the use cases of Ethereum. You mentioned stablecoins. Really curious about your thoughts about stablecoins and what it says about how buyers, consumers, investors really want to engage with digital assets. Stablecoins, by definition, are meant to be stable. They're often backed by the US dollar. We just reported that Tether is actually holding also an $8 billion pile of gold, hard, physical, safe asset. Does this tell you that more people who are engaging in the crypto industry want safety? They don't want volatility.
I think crypto offers, you can have your cake and eat it too. You could invest in a token that's a stable coin, or you can invest in a token that has, of course, some volatility, but we believe structural upside. You can't get rid of the cyclical gyrations of a new technology that's surfacing into the mainstream, like Ethereum. There are going to be cyclical gyrations. But like I said, with the legislation that's now clearing the way for Ethereum, we believe that there is structural upside, and all these projects that are being worked on with Ethereum, you have, just taking a step back, you have tens and tens of thousands of developers on Ethereum, more than any other blockchain, including Solana or Bitcoin. A lot of them were frankly shy to launch their projects because they didn't want to go to jail. That era is gone, and now you're going to see a lot of projects finally launched off Ethereum without the fear of the government going after you, because there was just a lack of clarity about it. So now we have that behind us, and you're going to see a lot of unleashing of valuation on Ethereum, and that's our thesis.
What if you're wrong, Sam?
I don't believe I am, and there are a lot of doubters with Bitcoin back in the years. I've been around. I've seen that happen before, and I'll tell you what. Fiat is like holding water. Try to do that. It's going to go through your fingers. Fiat is not the answer if you want to retain your savings power. If you look at the purchasing power of fiat from 30 years ago to today, I'd rather be holding Ethereum. Ethereum has utility, has value. Even Bitcoin's a better answer. But I just do not believe that holding fiat on your balance sheet is the way forward. And I think a lot of people understand that intuitively.
Bit Digital CEO Sam Tabar. Sam, good to see you. Thanks for joining us on Bloomberg Crypto. Do appreciate it. Well, coming up, Anchorage Digital CEO joins us to discuss their work with the new Solana ETF. Also, some added competition from Circle. And to access all the latest data and news on crypto, check out CRYP Go on the terminal. This is Bloomberg.
Federally chartered digital bank Anchorage is now the exclusive custodian and staking partner for the new Rex Osprey Solana staking ETF. It comes as stablecoin issuer Circle files to become a federally chartered bank on its own, adding to competition in the space. Let's discuss it now with Anchorage CEO and co-founder Nathan McCauley. Nathan, it's interesting, the banking industry for the last couple of years, before we got to this point with all this promise of regulatory clarity, the banking industry has stepped away from the crypto industry in a pretty massive way. I'm sure that that was something that drove a lot of activity to you. What does the scene look like now with more competition headed your way?
So I think the overall trend in the industry has been extremely positive. We see more and more institutions adopting crypto, more and more institutions wanting to take a position in the space, whether that's corporate treasuries, large asset managers, and ETFs, even more new ETFs coming. So overall, we see the pie growing substantially, and that has led to a lot of business growth for us, and likely a lot of business growth for the industry at large. We welcome new entrants into the digital asset space. We think others should follow our lead and pursue the federal banking charter through the OCC. So looking forward to that, and welcome all new industry participants to grow the overall industry and ecosystem.
It's notable to see digital asset companies want to become banks, because for many years we saw fintechs such as Chime, for example, make sure they weren't becoming banks. What they would do is what they have done is partnered with banks to be these so-called neobanks or fintech companies that offer banking-like services. Why would a digital asset manager want to become a chartered bank?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is coming down to the fact that the Genius bill, which is has passed through the Senate and is looking like it may pass through the House relatively quickly, is giving a special treatment for OCC chartered banks specifically. So if you want to be a stablecoin issuer, becoming federally regulated is going to be a natural path because the OCC is being set up as the primary federal regulator for all things around the stablecoin industry.
What are your plans, Nathan? If you think about the growth of Anchorage Digital, you're watching, it's kind of amazing. One after another, companies tap public markets. We saw a SPAC just today. We saw one, I guess, a week or so ago as well. We see companies wanting to be holders of Bitcoin in public markets. We see ETFs launching. There's a free-for-all in public markets. What are your plans in terms of fundraising and the desire to go public?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we're seeing across the entire institutional landscape a desire for investment into the crypto ecosystem. This grows across people wanting to invest in crypto funds, wanting to invest into crypto assets, getting that exposure via spot assets, get it via access to the ETFs and access to the corporate treasuries. And we at Anchorage support all of those use cases that help institutional investors come in. A natural part of that is that people also want to get access to crypto companies as well. So I think the whole space is growing as a result of that. In terms of our plans, I don't have anything particular to talk about there, but just know that it's a wonderful part of the industry that so much is growing, so much is developing, and there's so much demand for access to this asset class.
We're also seeing a lot of support coming from members of the president's own family and their forays into digital assets. I'm wondering how you view that and if there's any concern from you, not about a conflict of interest, but essentially competing in the space with Trump's.
I think that the industry is open to all. The crypto industry is fundamentally about democratizing access to financial products, democratizing access to financial services. When we look at the recent issues across the industry where crypto companies were debanked and others were debanked, it's entirely natural for a whole set of new participants to want to come in and want to participate in the digital asset industry. And it's global, frankly. And so I think it's open to all, whether you are an entrepreneur in the developing world to whether you are well-established business people within the United States. So I think that's what's beautiful about crypto is that it's open to everyone, and I look forward to seeing more growth there.
Anchorage Digital CEO Nathan McCauley, we thank you so very much for your time. Quickly evolving industry. We're now going to head back to the White House where President Trump is speaking. Just some headlines. He recently just said in the course of this conversation that Powell should resign immediately, amping up the pressure once again on the central bank chair. Let's take a listen to what else he has to say at the White House.